Ambassador Park Ji-ho stood in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council's flagship. The room was filled with alien beings from 47 different worlds. Some had scales. Some had fur. Others looked like living crystals. But they all had one thing in common: they looked at him with contempt. Ji-ho had been standing there for 6 hours. His legs ached. His throat was dry. But he refused to sit down. Behind him stood Lee Saman, his military advisor, and Choi Miho, his science expert. They had been trying to make peace for 6 months. 6 long months of offering friendship. 6 months of being rejected. The Vrathian Chancellor spoke. It was a tall creature with 3 eyes and purple scales that shifted colors when it moved. You will give us your military ships. You will accept our rule. You will give us whatever resources we want. Ji-ho's jaw clenched. And if we say no? The Chancellor pointed to the large window. Outside, 10,000 alien warships floated in space at the edge of Earth's solar system. Their weapons glowed like angry stars. Then we will force you. We have done this 43 times before. Young species always become wise in the end. Ji-ho looked at Saman. She nodded slightly. They had prepared for this moment. Chancellor, Ji-ho said carefully, humans have existed for 200,000 years. We survived ice ages. We survived diseases that killed millions. We survived wars against ourselves. We learned to split atoms. We learned to leave our planet. We learned to travel between stars. The room became quiet. And we learned one important truth, Ji-ho continued. Peace requires both sides to choose it. You are asking us to give up our freedom. You call it wisdom. We call it slavery. So I will be clear, we refuse. Every single demand. The Chancellor's scales turned bright red with anger. You would choose death over obedience? You have less than 100 ships. We have 10,000 just in your system. We don't want this war, Ji-ho said. His voice was steady. We are begging you to leave. We will forget this happened. We will. The Council does not negotiate with primitives, the Chancellor interrupted. You have 72 hours to change your mind. After that, we will occupy your solar system. We will dissolve your government. We will take apart your military. This is not a discussion. This is mercy. Ji-ho looked at his team one final time. Then he stared directly at the Council. Then I have one message for you. From all of humanity. Speak. You think our desire for peace means we are weak. You think our patience means we cannot fight. Ji-ho's eyes burned with determination. This is your last chance to leave. Choose carefully. Because if you force this war, you will learn exactly what humanity becomes when we have no choice but to survive. The Chancellor laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. We have conquered 100 worlds, human. What could you possibly do to us? Ji-ho turned and walked toward the door. His team followed. As the doors closed behind him, he spoke without looking back. You're about to find out. 72 hours passed. Earth's government sent no surrender. No begging message. Just silence. The Galactic Council gave the order. 2,000 warships moved into Earth's solar system. They expected a quick victory. Maybe a few desperate human ships would attack. Maybe some satellites would be destroyed. They expected Earth to surrender within a week. In Earth's military headquarters, buried deep beneath the city of Seoul, Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-young watched enemy ships approaching on glowing screens. Officers from every nation on Earth waited for his command. Admiral? Commander Jang Bora asked quietly. The Council ships are crossing the asteroid belt. They're heading for Mars. Tae-young had been a soldier for 30 years. He had seen many battles. But this was different. This was humanity's first war against aliens. This was about survival. Sir? Bora pressed. Tae-young finally spoke. His voice was calm and cold. Send the signal. All weapons. All fleets. All stations. He looked at the screen showing enemy ships that thought Earth would fall easily. Show them what we are. Across the solar system, 200 hidden weapon stations came alive. Every asteroid humanity had secretly armed over the past 6 months. Every moon base they had built in secret. Every space station they had disguised as civilian buildings. Mars' 2 moons opened like metal flowers, showing massive weapons that humanity had told the Council were mining equipment. The asteroid belt lit up with thousands of missiles launching. Jupiter's stations revealed railguns that could fire metal rods at incredible speeds. The Council's fleet sailed into a trap that covered millions of kilometers. Fire, Tae-young whispered. And humanity went to war. Commander Kelth of the Vrathian fleet watched his control screens with confusion. Red warning lights appeared everywhere. His ship's computer was detecting weapons locks from empty space. Sensors show weapon targeting from asteroid 447b, his officer reported. Wait, correction. Weapons targeting from every asteroid in this area. What? Kelf demanded. The humans don't have military bases in the asteroid belt. Our scouts said the belt was empty of. The first missiles hit 3 of his destroyers. Then 50 more missiles struck. Then 500. Evasive action. Fire back. Kelf screamed, but it was too late. His fleet had entered the belt in a tight group, expecting no resistance. Now they were packed together like fish in a barrel. Human missiles were not advanced by Council standards. They didn't have fancy guidance systems or dimensional explosives. They were just fast, numerous, and carried nuclear warheads. And there were thousands of them. Kelf watched in horror as he understood the human strategy. They weren't trying to win ship battles. They were using their own solar system as a weapon. Every rock, every moon, every piece of space debris had been turned into a gun platform. Deploy defenses. Target those asteroids. Kelth ordered. But targeting asteroids was like fighting a planet. It was slow and pointless. By the time Council ships destroyed one weapons platform, 10 more had already fired. And the humans had done something the Council considered barbaric. They had mounted weapons on automated systems. No crews. No one to surrender. No mercy. Just endless, patient killing. Commander Yang Hajuan piloted her small fighter from a hidden bay on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. She had been born on Titan and had never seen Earth's surface. But today she was fighting for all of it. Blue Squadron, form up, she commanded. Her voice was steady despite her fear. Target coordinates coming now. Remember, hit and run. Don't try to win. Just make them bleed. 12 fighters, small and fast, shot toward the nearest Council destroyer. They carried nuclear-powered laser weapons mounted on frames that wouldn't survive firing them. One-shot weapons. Suicide weapons. Lock acquired, Hajuan said softly. All units, fire on my mark. She thought about her daughter, safe in Titan's deep shelters. She thought about her husband, who had died when Council scouts destroyed their mining ship 3 months ago. She thought about what would happen to humanity if they surrendered. Mark. 12 beams of pure radiation stabbed through space. The Council destroyer's shields, designed to stop normal ship weapons, failed instantly against the raw power of nuclear explosions turned into lasers at close range. The destroyer split in half. Hajuan's fighter, its power core destroyed from firing, drifted dead in space. She watched her squadron scatter. 5 had survived to retreat. 7 had died the moment they fired. Through her cockpit window, she saw the Council fleet, massive and seemingly unstoppable. She saw Earth, small and blue in the distance. She smiled. We hurt them, she whispered. We actually hurt them. Then her oxygen ran out. Back in Earth's command bunker, Admiral Taeyong reviewed the casualty reports. Mars base had fallen after 3 days of fighting. 2 million colonists had evacuated to underground shelters, but Council orbital bombardment had collapsed half the tunnels. 2 million civilians dead. Council fleet losses, 600 ships destroyed. Nearly 30% of their attack force. Admiral, Commander Bora said quietly, the Council is broadcasting a surrender demand. They're offering to spare Earth if we. Denied, Taeyong said. Send them our response. What response, sir? Taeyong looked at the display screens. Council ships were regrouping. Human installations still burned. Mars glowed with fires that would burn for months. Tell them we're just getting started. Bora typed the message, then paused. Sir, they're calling us barbarians. They say we fight without honor. That using automated weapons and suicide tactics violates galactic law. Taeyong laughed bitterly. Galactic law? They came to conquer us and they're surprised we fight dirty? He shook his head. Tell them this. They wrote their laws for wars between empires who had something to lose. We're fighting for survival. We'll use any weapon, any tactic, any sacrifice necessary. If they want to call that barbaric, fine. But they better understand what it means. What does it mean, sir? It means we'll burn the galaxy down before we let them put chains on us. Taeyong's face hardened. Now send another wave. Hit their supply lines. Their repair ships. Make them scared to sleep. Make them regret ever hearing the word human. Across the solar system, humanity's scattered fleets received their orders. The war had just begun. 6 months into the war, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Chancellor Velroth of the Vrathi stood before the assembled alien representatives. His scales were pale with stress. The human situation has escalated beyond our predictions, he admitted. We have committed 40% of our combined military forces to the Sol system. Casualties exceed 100,000 ships and 20 million personnel. Silence filled the chamber. Finally, a Kethran delegate spoke. Her voice trembled. 40%? To fight one primitive planet? How is this possible? Because they don't fight like primitives, Velroth said. They fight like cornered animals. They've weaponized their entire system. They use tactics we banned thousands of years ago as too cruel. And now? Now what? The Kethran demanded. Now they've left their system. They're attacking us. Captain Kong Doyen commanded the human destroyer called Defiant. His ship was damaged, understaffed, and running on salvaged parts. But it was fast and it was angry. Target acquired, his tactical officer Lieutenant Han Jaiwu reported. Council Supply Depot, Kepler 442 system. Minimal defenses. Doyen studied the display. The depot was deep in Council space far from Earth. It supplied 15 Council fleets. Destroying it would cause chaos. Load the package, Doyen ordered. The package was a human specialty. A 1 gigaton antimatter warhead mounted on a missile that was mostly fuel. It had one purpose: reach maximum velocity and detonate. No complex targeting. No sophisticated defenses. Just speed and fury. Launch in 3, 2, 1 away. The Defiant turned and ran at maximum speed. Behind them, the missile accelerated to 40% light speed before the Council depot even detected it. By then it was too late. The antimatter explosion turned the depot and everything within 1,000 kilometers into expanding gas. 15 Council fleets would go hungry this month. Thousands of Council ships would delay repairs. Doyen felt no joy. Just cold satisfaction. Set course for Rally Point Theta, he ordered. We've got 6 more targets this week. Sir, Jaiwu said hesitantly. The crew is exhausted. We've been fighting for 6 months straight. Food supplies are low. We need to. We stop when we're dead, Doyen interrupted. Until then we make them pay. Understood. Jaiwu nodded. Everyone on the Defiant understood. Earth's moon had been destroyed 3 months ago. 50 million people had died when the Council used planet-destroying weapons on Luna. There was a time for mercy. There was a time for talking. That time was gone. Now there was only war. On Earth, in the deep shelters beneath Sol, scientist Dr. Oyuna worked on humanity's desperate projects. The surface was poisoned now. Council bombardment had shattered Earth's ecosystem. The skies burned. The oceans boiled. But underground, humanity survived. And worked. Dr. O, her assistant Najimin called out. The quantum communication array is ready for testing. Yuna rubbed her tired eyes. She hadn't slept in 40 hours. None of them had. They were racing against time, trying to develop weapons that could end the war before humanity went extinct. Run the test, she ordered. Jimin activated the device. Across the lab a second device lit up. They were 50 kilometers apart. The moment one activated, the other responded. Instantly. No light speed delay. It works, Jimin breathed. We can communicate across any distance instantly. And if communication works, then weapons work, Yuna finished. She thought about what this technology could do. Missiles that couldn't be jammed. Weapons that ignored distance. Fleets that could coordinate perfectly across light years. And then she thought about the darker application. The one they'd been theorizing about for months. Jimin, pull up the stellar detonation calculations. Jimin's face went pale. Doctor, we agreed that was too dangerous. If we can trigger stars remotely? If we can threaten their homes the way they've destroyed ours, maybe they'll finally stop, Yuna said. Her voice was empty. She'd been a peace activist before the war. She'd protested Earth's military expansion. She'd believed in peaceful contact with aliens. Then the Council had killed her husband in the Mars bombardment. Her daughter in the Luna collapse. Her parents when they poisoned Earth's atmosphere. Now she built weapons. And she didn't feel guilty anymore. Run the calculations, she ordered. We need to know if it's possible. While humanity developed new weapons in their underground laboratories, the Council made a final decision. They would end the war with overwhelming force. They would use weapons so terrible that they'd been banned by Galactic Treaty for 5,000 years. They would sterilize every system humanity had ever touched. Admiral Park Hyaman received the intelligence report from human spies within Council space. She read it 3 times, hoping she'd misunderstood. They're going to kill us all, she whispered. Not just defeat us. Not just conquer us. They're going to erase us from existence. Commander Lee Seo-jun looked over her shoulder. His face was grim. The Council has authorized stellar compression weapons. If they deploy those against our sun, every planet in our system dies, Hyman finished. Sun included. They'll turn our star into a black hole. Can we stop them? Hyman thought about humanity's battered fleets. About Earth's dying atmosphere. About the 2 billion humans left alive out of the 12 billion they'd started with. No, she said finally. We can't stop them. She looked at Seo-jun. But we can make them regret it. Give me a channel to Dr. O. Tell her to accelerate the stellar detonation project. Whatever it takes, I want it operational in 60 days. That's not enough time. Then we die trying, Hyman snapped. Because in 60 days the Council is going to try to end us. We need to make sure that if we die, we don't die alone. 2 years after the Council's ultimatum, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Trade routes that had existed for thousands of years were now war zones. Species that had been allies for ages now fought over how to handle the human problem. The Council was breaking apart. Chancellor Velroth stood before what remained of the Galactic Council. Once, 47 species had sent representatives. Now only 32 remained. 15 had withdrawn their forces, disgusted by the brutality required to fight humanity. We have lost 12,000 ships, Velroth announced. His voice was hollow. We have spent 70 trillion credits. We have bombarded 17 human colonies into dust. And still they fight. Because we haven't hit them hard enough, the Kethran delegate shouted. Deploy the stellar weapons. End this. If we do that, we prove them right, a Mirith representative said quietly. They've been broadcasting our war crimes across the galaxy. Half our own citizens think we're the villains now. They attacked our worlds, the Kethran screamed. They dropped asteroids on Kethra Prime. 3 billion of my people are dead. And they did it because we destroyed their moon first, the Mirith countered. 50 million humans died. Did we expect them to forgive us? Velroth raised his claws for silence. The question is no longer how to win. The question is how to survive. Our intelligence suggests humanity is developing stellar detonation weapons. If they deploy those, they wouldn't dare, the Kethran interrupted. They're desperate, not suicidal. Velroth wished he could believe that. But 2 years of fighting humans had taught him something terrifying. When humans believed their species would die, they became capable of anything. In a hidden asteroid base in the Oort cloud, Admiral Kim Tae-young reviewed the latest tactical data. Earth was gone. Not destroyed but abandoned. The surface was uninhabitable. The atmosphere was toxic. Humanity's last 2 billion survivors lived in underground cities, in asteroid colonies, in generation ships fleeing into deep space. They'd become nomadic. Scattered. But not beaten. Admiral, Commander Bora said, entering his office. We've received the final report from Dr. O's team. The stellar detonation network is complete. Tae-young looked up. All 500 devices? All 500. We've placed them in orbit around every Council core world within 300 light-years. If we activate them, trillions die, Tae-young finished. He'd aged 20 years in the past too. His hair was white now. His hands shook when he thought about what they'd become. And humanity becomes the monster the Council always said we were. Sir, they destroyed Earth. They killed 10 billion of us. If we don't use these weapons. I know. Tae-young stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars burned, distant and cold. Humanity had once dreamed of exploring those stars peacefully. Now they planned to weaponize them. Prepare to send a message to the Council, he said finally. Tell them we want to negotiate. One final chance for peace. They'll refuse. They always refuse. I know. But I need them to refuse. I need them to force our hand. Because when we press that button, Tae-young's voice cracked. When we trigger those weapons, I need to know we tried everything else first. 3 days later, the Council's response arrived. Humanity will surrender unconditionally or face complete extermination. There will be no negotiation. Tae-young read it twice, then handed it to Bora. Send the next message. The final one. Captain Shin Jaiwan commanded a stealth ship near Council space. Her mission was simple. Deliver a data package to every broadcasting station, every news network, every public forum in Council space. The package contained one message recorded by Admiral Tae-young himself. Jaiwan watched it one final time before transmission. Tae-young's image appeared, standing in what looked like a command center. He looked exhausted, defeated. But his eyes burned with something unbreakable. People of the Galactic Council, he began. For 2 years we've fought. We've bled. We've died. Not because we wanted war but because you gave us no choice. We offered peace. You demanded slavery. We offered coexistence. You demanded extermination. He paused, and when he spoke again his voice was colder. So let me be clear about what happens next. Over the past 2 years, while you hunted us, while you destroyed our worlds, we've been building. We've placed stellar detonation devices in orbit around 500 of your core worlds. These devices can trigger your stars to go supernova. We're not bluffing. We're not negotiating. This is your only warning. You have 72 hours to agree to our terms. Immediate ceasefire. Complete withdrawal from all human space. Reparations for our dead. And permanent recognition of human sovereignty. If you refuse, if you attack us again, if you make any move against any human anywhere. Taeyong leaned forward. His next words were barely a whisper, but they carried the weight of 2 billion people who'd lost everything. We burn your worlds. All 500 of them. In a single day. You'll die knowing that you chose this. You chose war. You chose extinction. You chose this. The message ended. Jaiwan transmitted it, then set her ship on a course for deep space. Behind her, across council space, the message played on every screen, every display, every public forum. And the galaxy held its breath. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. For 3 days they debated. Some species demanded immediate surrender to human terms. Others insisted humanity was bluffing. Surely they wouldn't actually commit genocide on such a massive scale. Chancellor Velroth knew better. He'd fought humans for 2 years. He'd seen what they were capable of when cornered. We must accept their terms, he said. We have no choice. We can find the devices, the Kethran delegate argued. We can disarm them. In 72 hours? Across 500 systems? Velroth shook his head. Impossible. And if we try and fail, they'll activate them. Then we all die. So we surrender to primitives? The Kethran spat. We who have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years? We surrender to our own arrogance, Velroth said quietly. We started this war. We pushed them to this point. Now we pay the price. The vote wasn't even close. 32 species voted to accept human terms. 0 voted against. The Council, for the first time in its history, surrendered. Admiral Kim Taeyong received the Council's acceptance in the command center. Around him, officers who'd fought for 2 years stood in silence. They'd won. Humanity had survived. But the cost. Sir, Commander Bora said softly. What do we do with the stellar devices? We promised to dismantle them if the Council agreed to peace. Taeyong was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, send teams to dismantle them. All 500. Sir, if we disarm ourselves? We gave our word, Taeyong interrupted. We're not the monsters they thought we were. We'll dismantle the devices. But make sure every schematic, every component, every bit of research is preserved and hidden. If the Council ever threatens us again, we can rebuild them, Bora finished. Understood, sir. 3 weeks later, in neutral space, the treaty was signed. The Council agreed to immediate ceasefire and withdrawal from all human space. 10,000 light-years of exclusive human territory. Reparations in raw materials, technology, and ships sufficient to rebuild human civilization. A permanent human seat on the Galactic Council. And war crimes tribunals for Council commanders who'd committed atrocities. Ambassador Park Ji-ho, who delivered humanity's first refusal 2 years ago, signed for humanity. His hands didn't shake. He'd lost his daughter in the Luna collapse. His husband in Earth's bombardment. He'd earned the right to sign this treaty in their names. Is it enough? Chancellor Velroth asked quietly after the ceremony. Can your people forgive us? Ji-ho looked at him. Forgive? No. We'll never forgive. But we'll accept peace. Because we're tired of war. We're tired of dying. And we're tired of killing. He paused. But understand this, Chancellor. We'll never forget. And we'll never be this weak again. I don't think you were ever weak, Velroth said. That was our mistake. 50 years after the war, Captain Lee Sora piloted a colony ship toward a new world. This planet, designated New Earth, was in humanity's exclusive territory far from Council space. It had oceans, breathable atmosphere, and no history of violence. It was perfect. Captain, her first officer said. We're receiving a transmission from Council space. It's a Vrathi ship. They're requesting permission to trade. Sora tensed. The Vrathi had led the Council's attack on Earth. They'd killed billions. And now they wanted to trade? Deny the request, she said. We're not ready for that yet. Ma'am, the treaty requires us to. I know what the treaty says, Sora snapped. Then softer, tell them we'll consider it. In another 50 years. When the children born today who never knew Earth, who never knew the war, when they're old enough to decide if we can trust the Council again. But not yet. Not while we still remember. The officer nodded and sent the message. Sora looked out at New Earth, at the future humanity was building. Behind her, on the colony ship, pregnant women waited to give birth to the first generation of humans born in peace in 2 years. In Earth's military academies, rebuilt on asteroids and stations since Earth itself remained uninhabitable, one phrase was carved into every memorial, every classroom, every training facility. Never again. Never unarmed. Never defeated. Young cadets learned the war's history. They learned how close humanity had come to extinction. They learned the price of peace and the cost of weakness. And they learned one final lesson, the lesson that had saved their species. When faced with extinction, humanity doesn't surrender. They fight. They adapt. They sacrifice. They become what they must become to survive. The galaxy had learned that lesson too. Now, when Council ships passed through human space, they broadcast peaceful intentions and waited for permission. Now, when disputes arose, the Council remembered what happened the last time they tried to force humanity's compliance. Ambassador Park Ji-ho, old now and tired, stood before the new Galactic Assembly 50 years after the war. He'd been invited to speak on the treaty anniversary. The Council asked us to surrender, he began. They said we were too young, too primitive, too dangerous. They gave us an ultimatum. Submit or die. And we chose neither. We chose to fight. Not because we wanted war. But because we refused to let anyone else decide our future. We refused to kneel. You called us barbarians. You called us monsters. And you were right. Because you taught us that honor and mercy are luxuries the desperate cannot afford. Ji-ho paused, looking across the assembly. Today we live in peace. Our children grow up on new worlds. We trade with you. We work with you. But we'll never forget what we learned. We learned that the price of our freedom is eternal vigilance. We learned that peace must be chosen, not imposed. And most importantly, his voice dropped. We learned that humanity will never again be helpless. Never again will we beg for mercy. Never again will we place our survival in anyone's hands but our own. He looked at Velroth. You chose this war. And we chose to survive it. Make sure the galaxy never forgets either choice.